Welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy, the podcast where we ask the question, what is it about horror that makes us happy? Your hosts are Steve Becker and myself, Chris Whitman, and you can find out more about us at our website, horrormakesushappy.com. Before we get started, a little information for you and the listeners. This is your trigger warnings. We're going to be talking about horror movies and horror culture, which could involve anything from murder, rape, suicide, child abuse. There could be F-bombs and other such things. So that doesn't sound like something you're interested in listening to now. Maybe go take some time to prepare yourself and come back. Or otherwise, if you're down for that, stick around and listen to us talk about all kind of fucked up shit. I don't know, shower pits or whatever. Today's guest is Eric Savino. He is a visual effects tech, best known for his work on the Avengers, the 2011 Conan reboot, and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Killer. Welcome to the show, Eric. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I'm a couple beers in now, so it's going to only get more interesting. I am also a lightweight, so, there you go.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything you want to plug before we get into the meat of the interview?
Well, right now, currently, I'm trying to open up an Etsy store. So it's Savimorph Industries on Etsy. It's still pretty fresh, pretty new. I'm slowly getting some product up there. Tonight, I should be uploading all the alien soaps that we're currently working on. Yeah, there's a couple T-shirts and stuff on there too. Eventually, I'll get my mask and whatnot. But yeah, I'm like super ADD and I'm juggling like a million freaking projects.
Cool. Well, this interview is more geared towards you as a fan of horror and different genres like that. Less about your work, but I'm sure it'll come up as different parts of the interview as we progress.
Yeah, we don't care about the shit you made.
Fuck your shit.
We want to know what makes you tick.
Oh, well, that's a little scary, but that's what this is about, right? So,
yes. So what we're going to do is we're going to come at it three different ways, similar questions, but covering your childhood, teenage years, and adulthood. The idea is try to find out what it is about horror that you like, but coming at it from these different angles sometimes triggers memories you'd forgotten about. That said, it's not meant to be a therapy session. So if there are questions you don't want to answer, you just say, I'll pass on that one. We'll move on.
All right.
But starting with childhood, what are some of your earliest memories of scary things?
Real or on film?
Those are two different questions, I guess. Generally at first, like just scary memories, things that really stick out in your mind.
All right, here we go. So, the earliest scary experiences, I guess, would be domestic violence. So, yeah,
that's a real scare.
So my mom met this guy. Turned out to be a total piece of shit. Still is to this day. First experience, he burned me with a cigarette, which he's claiming it's an accident, whatever. I was like, I'd have been like 2 or 3. I mean, I have very vivid memories back then, mostly of the scary stuff. That sucks. Yeah. That and He-Man, Masters of the Universe was my thing. So that was kind of, I guess, my escapism. So this is all right. Now we're just entering 2 levels. So He-Man turned me on to like scary things as far as monsters go, because I was really rooting for the bad guys, Skeletor, all those guys.
The bad guys in He-Man were just much more entertaining.
Yeah, they're fucking cool as hell. Yeah. But then on the real side, so eventually they got married. I don't remember the wedding. So I don't remember the wedding or anything, but I remember the, living in the apartment. So there was a lot of violence. I mean, I didn't know what coke or marijuana was, but as I grew older, it's like, oh, that was a lot of that going on in that house, all over the coffee table, whatever. But anyway, so he would beat my mother on many occasions. Okay, and I was a little kid. I couldn't do shit. He just yelled at me, go in my room, and I'd sit there. I didn't even have a door in my room. There was a window that went from my room to the kitchen. Came to the point where she went after him with a knife. And that's when I eventually told my grandparents, and they took me away and brought me to Florida, which I stayed for like 4 years. That's another story. But that all that all stems from this, domestic violence and abuse that I witnessed. So, and it built into my psyche, unfortunately. And now I still deal with it to this day. Those are the earliest scary moments that I remember. Yeah.
A lot of our guests, I think we're on the 23rd session now, and mostly everything has to do with, scary movies you've seen or scary stories or shadows outside your window or
No.
But that's really one of the first real life terrors is violence, physical violence right there in real life.
And you can't do, and you're totally helpless because you're too small and you don't really understand what's going on at the time. I mean, like literally, I was walking, so I had to been like, I don't know, 3 or 4 maybe. So that led into, I went to Florida. Grandparents took me away from this. And there was like this whole court thing. My mom tried to get me back, but she had to get out of her situation. But anyway, I was there for 4 years. But I was a very violent young child. And when I mean violent, and it was mostly towards women because that's what I picked up,
Yeah.
I don't do this stuff anymore. They put me away, they kind of suppressed all that. And, I won't hit a woman ever. I mean, that's actually my shut off, which that's another story. So many stories connected to this. So anyway, I used to if my grandmother was trying to put my toys away or whatever, and I didn't want her to, I'd get crazy. I'd black out and jump on her back, start pounding her in the skull. Little kid is like Chucky, but it's this little kid. So, I mean, clearly, they couldn't handle it. My grandfather would come in and beating my ass with the leather belt or whatever. And that was that. And eventually they put me in this place called the Retreat. It was more of it wasn't really a loony bin, I don't think. It was more of like a rehab hospital. My grandparents take me to here, right? I've seen a few shrinks before they decided we can't handle this. We're going to, put them away for a bit. So they take me to this place and we're doing this little interview in this office. It was a great office. And they're like, I'm walking around because I'm bored of this, the conversations happening there. And I'm looking out the door into this courtyard and there's a pool and I like to swim. And they're like, they come up to me. He's like, oh, you want to see the swimming pool? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Not knowing that I was going to get fucked. Okay. So, we go look at the swimming pool and they're showing me around. Next thing I know I turn around, doors are locked behind me. My grandparents are walking away and I'm stuck in this fucking place all by myself. And I'm like, what? And, as a little kid, you don't know what to, bawl out crying and shit. And the stranger's trying to comfort me or whatever. I think I was there for 2 months. It was. And every time I would get violent, they would, people would tackle me, right? Drag me into this tiny room, strap me to a bed, stick a needle in my ass that would, I don't know what was in it, but it would, it would sedate me, calm me down. And then they would unstrap me when I was finally calm, but they'd leave me locked in this room for quite a while. So basically they suppressed everything through negative reinforcement. Okay.
Right.
So, I mean, years later, I'm a very passive person now because I don't like to let that side out because it's such a, it gives off, I always get negative effect from it. So you don't want negative effects. Nobody does. So, but there are some instances like when we were talking about fighting and stuff, if I'm pushed too far, I snap and I black out and I fuck shit up normally. So, but yeah, that was a lot of fun shit. That was sarcasm, but my only entertainment at the time was Super Mario Brothers, and the game, not the movie that wasn't out back then. and thank God. And
or you might still be in there.
Yeah, I might still be in there. And then Back to the Future, which I watched on a fucking loop because they actually had, for some reason in this rehab, they did have horror movies or slightly scary movies with monsters, right? But they wouldn't let me watch it because, I guess my condition or whatever. So it was Back to the Future, and Back to the Future is my favorite movie. Run that shit on a loop every day and I'll be okay. But, but aside from all that nonsense, yeah, horror movies have influenced me as well. Godzilla was the first one, really. Just that hulking monster destroying fucking cities, and it's
Are we talking like classic black and white Godzilla?
All of it. We're talking 70s Godzilla, classics Godzilla. When did the first one come out? The 50s or 60s? It was
50s, yeah.
I think it was the 50s, yeah. That dude was fucking cool. I was really into dinosaurs at the time, like a little kid in the 80s wasn't into dinosaurs. And then he was like the next big thing. And then, of course, like everybody else, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, they were like my gateway drugs, But here's the thing, okay? Because of, my temperament at the time, my grandmother still to this day is fucking terrified of me. It sucks, but I try to tell her, like, I'm not that person anymore. I've grown. That's what the human experience is about. But, excuse me. Anyway, but she would try to suppress all this stuff. Like, I was always drawn to like monsters and horror and like gore, sci-fi, and crazy shit. And she would always try to suppress. She was a God-fearing woman. We went to church every Sunday, funny little thing. I used to get a kick. I have asthma, or I had asthma when I was a kid, and everybody knew.
All right, so we lost Eric's audio from a portion of the interview, but based on what Chris and I were saying, Eric was talking about getting teased by glimpses of horror movies from scrambled cable channels, and he made jokes about how the suspense was like edging, and yes, he means the sexual term, and he also mentioned buying a van to live in so he wouldn't be homeless. But this is also a really good spot for me to take a moment and give you all a heads up as to something that happens later on the call. Eric is a very talented storyteller, very detailed, and he knows how to keep you on the edge of your seat until the very end. Later in the call, he shares with us a story about his girlfriend dying and being brought back a couple times. At first, Chris and I wondered whether we should put an extra disclaimer because it's the first time on our show that anyone's brought up a discussion of a real life passing, coming, and going. But in the end, we opted to cut 99% of that simply for the time limitations. After losing some audio, the full length of our interview with Eric was still a whopping 4 hours, which we make available in full for our Patreon subscribers. So we said, this is just a great moment to say if you want all the gory details from that story, along with the rest of the 4 hours of this interview and our other interviews that we make available in full, come support us on Patreon. And at the same time, it helps us meet our time limitations and eliminated the disclaimer issue from cutting that on this. We didn't really want to, but it just works out this way better. So now we'll pick up where we got back online. So we're back. We're recording. Last thing I remember, you were talking about Hellraiser 3 scrambled. Yeah, edging. Fucking with edging.
Are we done with edging? It'll be back.
Yeah. So getting busted for watching Scrambled Hellraiser 3. And my grandparents dumped me off at my mother's house. So
that's right. Yeah, you were talking about your
American culture opening up to me.
Yeah.
So
your grandparents showing a modus operandi.
What is that? That's a new word.
I think it's Italian.
Operandi?
That's new to me.
I think it might be. Well, it's their MO, as you might refer to it in the crime.
Yeah, that's what
detective stuff.
Oh,
that's
so
what MO stands for.
Oh shit! I learned something new today.
The more you know.
No, their pattern of telling you that you're going to go visit somewhere and then dropping you off and running.
That's true. Yeah, that's the second time. That never even occurred to me that there was a pattern.
What?
I don't think about it that much. I'm just like, that was my past. I deal with it and I move the fuck on. But yeah, holy shit. What a connection. You're a good therapist.
You see things that happen twice. Actually, it makes me wonder if they've done it other times.
They might have. Who the fuck knows, man? I mean, it's neither here nor there. I mean, they were doing the best they could. I mean, they're fucking old people. They go with what they were growing up with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so they dumped me off at my mother, whatever. And I meet my new stepdad, who I eventually grew to just call Dad because I didn't have one. I am half Puerto Rican and half some white guy. I'm a product of cocaine and whiskey. That's how I was conceived at my mother's age of 17. So there you go. Good choices, Ma. Good job. So
could have been worse.
Yeah. I guess I am also a surviving aborted fetus. So I'm the one that she didn't get the coat hanger.
Are you real life Charlie Kelly?
Who the fuck is Charlie Kelly?
Always Sunny.
Oh,
that happened in the show. He was.
I do remember that. Holy shit!
Mm-hmm.
I forgot. I'm great with faces, bad with names. So, but yeah, I think I watched that episode. That's pretty fucked up.
Yeah. Oh. You don't have a propensity to bash rats with baseball bats with spikes on.
Oh no! Don't say that. Because I've totally done that in my house.
Oh no!
I had to. Because I was getting tired of the snap traps because they scare me because they snap on you sometimes and they make a mess. So I was like, well, let me
like smash you.
That doesn't make
Well, no. I had to. I had no choice.
But I'm saying it doesn't make a mess.
No. No, it makes much worse of a mess. I had to though because I switched.
See, when you swing the bat, you see it coming, but rat trap goes off in the middle of the night. You're like, fuck! I just got woke up and now I got to clean up some blood and guts. I mean,
yeah. Well, no. Here's the deal. I switched from snap traps to sticky traps just to try it out. It's like I knew there was a downside to them. I'm like, how bad could it be? Well, the rat goes into the trap. He didn't get completely stuck. Yeah. His ass is stuck to it, and his legs are there. And I'm hearing in the middle of the night, flap, flap. Flap, flap. And I'm like, oh, God damn it, he's still alive. And I'm like thinking it'll be easy. I'll just drown him like I did the first one because I didn't know how to kill him properly. And I don't take joy out of this. I hate killing animals. It's just there's so many rats in my area and they keep coming into this house. I have no choice. I've eaten fucking rat piss in my cereal before because I didn't notice that they chewed through the fucking bag. Yeah. And I'm like telling Jen, my girlfriend, I'm like, man, this fucking cereal tastes like shit. Is it stale? And she's like, and we're all eating it, not even knowing. Yeah. And then later on, we ate the whole fucking thing. Like, oh, it's just stale cereal. And she goes in, one day she's cleaning and she looks at the bag and is like, motherfuckers chewed through the fucking bag. I was like, so, they deserve a bat to the skull. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, justified.
It's been good talking to you. Thanks for being our guest.
I am really a peaceful. I love life. I love living things, but sometimes, you got to do what you got to do. Anyway, I'm sorry for any animal lovers out there. It was a horrible experience. I will never do it again, and I haven't to this day. I still have to kill them, but I won't use a sticky trap. I learned the hard way. It is awful, awful, awful stuff. Anyway, How's everybody feeling?
And next week on Horror Makes Us Happy.
Oh, God. I'm not a horrible person. I swear to Christ. Anyway.
No, that was great. That was a vivid and detailed description.
Yeah.
I loved it. Every bit of it.
My life is madness. So finally, I get introduced to like rock and roll music, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, all that shit. As soon as I go there, we get to see Terminator, fucking, which I loved Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the day. I saw Terminator 2 in theaters, blew my fucking mind. And I was like all into cyborgs after that, and then the Borg on Star Trek and shit. Actually, my grandfather is the first one to introduce me to Star Trek Next Generation when it first aired. And he's like, oh, we're in his garage, his little workshop. And he's, hey, check this out. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I wasn't that into it until the Borg came on. I'm like, fuck yes, cyborgs. But,
now it's good.
It was the 90s. It was all the rage. Eventually, I got introduced to like heavy metal. That was another one. It's not really hard, but it's like that movie. I mean, and the thing is like my dad, he was a pervert, how they have things hidden away. I found his porn early on and it was like, holy shit. I mean, you can't really talk about horror, I don't think, without talking about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. They kind of all go hand in hand, in my opinion. And
these things are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. And like, I found a copy, must have recorded on beta or something onto VHS. I don't know. It was really scrambled, but it was heavy metal and just the opening with the guy in the space in the fucking convertible car.
Taxi?
Yeah. Uh-huh. No, not the taxi. The opening.
The opening
he comes out of the space shuttle and the music's going. He's all like, I'm an astronaut and I'm fucking cool landing on Earth, and I was like, dude, blew my fucking mind. And then eventually, like, I was introduced to Aliens, and then I was on a whole Giger kick there. And it's just doors wide open, Hellraiser, and I was fucking hooked, and it just kept growing. And I wasn't away from that whole God-fearing aspect, because I mean, Christianity is strong in the U.S., and my dad's parents were, God-fearing Christians. So we eventually all lived together, and like, well, they were always trying to, like, I got onto a whole decapitation kick for a while in my artwork. And like, I like to freak people out. I was telling this story earlier, but I don't think I finished it. But when I used to go to church, I used to fake having an asthma attack in front of everybody in the congregation, like outside the church or whatever, and act like I'm dying and be like, oh, I can't breathe, and collapse on the ground and convulse and shit as a little kid. And everybody would get around and watch me and be like, oh my God, what do we do? And as soon as I got enough people, I'd get up and just start laughing because I liked their reaction. It was just funny to me to see how shocked they were. I mean,
Can I just say for a moment?
I was an asshole kid. Yes, what?
And now you have COPD.
Oh, yeah. I do. I do have COPD because I smoked weed and a ton of cigarettes.
I'm just making the tie between you having this fake asthma.
Damn, he's a good therapist. He's right. Yeah. Is that a little karma for you? Maybe. Just maybe.
Shots fired. Damn.
That's a kick in the nuts. I never thought of it that way. Because I'm an atheist. I don't think in those terms, but it's like, maybe it's the secret. You put out negative vibes, they come back. If you put out positive vibes, you get positive.
I'm not saying they're connected. I'm just saying it's amusing.
Oh, it's very ironic indeed. Damn.
Let me ask you something, because, we have a long list of stuff here to talk about, even just in childhood stuff of things that you liked related to horror and things like that. But one of the themes that I hear coming up again more than once is the monsters. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering what it is. I'm guessing there's some sort of an emotional kick you get out of the monsters. Other than just excitement, is there
maybe like a relation to the monsters? I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I mean, like, if you tie it into like when I was scare acting and I was the monster, I mean, you got a sense of, control and power. In a sense that
that's a good one.
I didn't have control and power in a lot of these situations I was, put in. So, I mean, yeah, you could say it was probably something like that. Like he's like, oh, they got, just like He-Man, which is like, I'm obsessed. I got a fucking huge toy collection of fucking He-Man and shit. I mean, even if you watch The Toys That Made Us, they talk about that was the key element in He-Man is I have the power. And that's what they saw in their test trials of the toy with these boys, these little boys, that children, don't want to sound creepy or nothing.
Right.
They wanted the power, and not their parents to have the power. And that's how the I have the power slogan came to be. So, I mean, yeah, you could say it's probably something like that, I think.
That makes sense given, the situations that you've talked about, basically not having any power or control in the situation.
Mm-hmm. Are you a therapist by trade?
No.
You might want to consider it. There's a lot of money there, man.
You wrote a book.
Jesus Christ, you're good. I mean, I don't even have to pay for it, man. Half the therapists I've seen over my lifetime aren't as good as you so far. We've only been doing this for like an hour or 2 hours now. Shit.
Hey, and here's where it's good that you had to move locations, because now you're on the couch. You can do the whole recline thing.
I know. It's like fate. Let's go through the whole cliche.
Now, Steve, to make it completely cliche, you got to throw in a few generic. And how did that make you feel?
we already talked about that. Empowered and he had control.
Yeah,
well, you're right. You are good.
He doesn't talk about it directly. He comes at it indirectly to get you to say what's really on your mind.
Well, that's and clever. It's funny you say that, because Chris and I have had conversations exactly about that, and not even from a therapist point of view, but just in an interview point of view. Even if you're on 60 Minutes interviewing politicians and stuff, it's an interview thing that you try not to lead the person you're asking questions to. You really want to try to phrase a question neutral enough that it allows them to really answer on their own, and not you're not putting words in their mouth.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Anyway, no, it's not something that I would probably even want to do for a living, but I've definitely had my own experience. When you were a kid, I know you said that you had difficulty making friends sometimes, but did you have any group of friends when you were a kid that were into sort of the same kind of things as you, or no?
Not
in terms of horror.
Not at all, man. Well, I had I met I mean, this is probably why I'm anti people. I'm antisocial to a point. Like I like to keep to myself a lot nowadays. But I had groups of friends when I was little, but they were kind of assholes. There's the bigger, older kid that's wants to see you do fucked up shit and encourages it.
Mm-hmm.
I had that kind of shit. I remember having some friends when I was in New Jersey that were into Ghostbusters, but nobody was ever into anything I was into. I was always very isolated, kind of the loner deal.
Mm-hmm.
Even my cousin is my closest friend back then, and we hang out all the time, but we were polar opposites. I was a little more outgoing, he was a little more shy, whatever, you know.
Did you have any reoccurring dreams or nightmares when you were a kid?
Absolutely. I had
It's like I was waiting for you to ask.
Yeah. Well, the first one happened when I was living with my grandparents in Hialeah, Florida. Excuse me. It was weird. I actually wrote a graphic novel based on these characters. I got a first draft going. Where I'm in it's kind of like an auditorium. You got bleachers, all right, and there's a woman in front of the bleachers at a podium, and she's got these black onyx stones coming out of her head like horns, and there's all these different characters, creature type people in the bleachers, and they're all chatting up when somebody says something shocking and everybody's talking oh my god, I can't believe you said it, all at once,
Mm-hmm.
Rabble.
Yeah, rabble, exactly. And I'm behind the bleachers and running around, and I got these fucking thing. I call them give ups now. These I was able to interpret into drawing, and eventually a teacher of mine from Full Sail, the school I went to, uh, sculpted it for me as a gift. And she likes birds, and it's kind of a bird type creature, but it's like a humanoid form, like a bronze beak, and the rest of the head is feathers, and he's covered in leather straps, claws. He's got fly wings for wings, he's got these weird metal spikes shooting out of his back, and he's got eyeballs that come out of his mouth, kind of like the god damn it, I forget her name. Beetlejuice, yeah.
Yeah.
Which another movie that was influential. Holy shit, was that an awesome movie back in the day. And they're flying around. There's a few of them flying around they're trying to peck my eyes out. They're trying to eat my eyes. Okay. And I'm trying not to let them.
Mm-hmm.
In my adult life now, I barely dream, which is really disappointing. I don't get any dreams at all.
So let's go over to teenage years. We had a lot of conversation about your childhood. What were some of the scary things that you enjoyed in your teenage years? I think you mentioned getting to see Alien and Hellraiser.
Uh-huh.
What else did you get into in your teenage years?
Well, I also mentioned Marilyn Manson was a big influence at the time. The videos, Tool, even with the video, it was a lot of the MTV stuff,
Right.
The Tool videos. Even I like the I don't know if this is the title of the song, that "Don't Come Around Here No More" by Tom Petty, the Alice in Wonderland bit where she's a cake. Those were a lot of influences. The music, especially, because I was still trying to find, I guess, my identity. I was just, flowing through. I mean, I started getting disenfranchised with horror movies after watching Mimic, I think. Was it Mimic?
The one with the giant cockroach?
No. It was the Relic. The Mimic was the thing with the bug people that turned into dudes. That was actually a cool movie. The Relic was okay too. I was just a little disappointed in the monster.
Come on, the Relic was awesome.
I'd have to watch it again.
Monkey monster that ate people's brains, and then they lit it on fire in the end.
Yeah, I'd have to watch it again. It's been years, but I remember being like, ah. But Yeah, that was it. And then it was into drugs and shit. Oh, here's a horror experience. Again, this is real life. This isn't a movie. So, I was telling you guys I was in high school. I would get picked on, whatever, and the hippies, they brought me over to smoke weed or whatever. And we were having a party one night, okay? And the parents knew we were getting high. We were in the tool shed in the backyard getting high, and it was, a good night, start to a good night. And there was an inflatable raft that was hanging over our heads in the shed, and we brought it down, and we were hotboxing the shed, but then we hotboxed the raft too, and we're drinking like crazy, and we're teenagers and getting fucked up. And I have asthma, so I was like, after a while I was getting so smoky, it's like, man, I need a breather. So I leave the shed and I'm outside, it's nighttime, and all of a sudden I start pacing, and I'm pacing in a circle, going around and around, and I'm breathing, and I start hyperventilating, and then all of a sudden I realize something is wrong. Okay. And my brain felt like I got this explosion in my brain, like somebody took a shotgun to my skull and pulled the trigger. Okay. And like it threw my body back. I'm like, what the fuck was that? And then my brain would reform in my skull. And this happened several times. Before this happened, some of the guys came out of the shed and they're like, hey, are you okay, man? You feeling okay? And then all this shit started happening, and everybody started freaking out. What the fuck is wrong with him and shit? They brought me into the house. They got the dad of the house, and he's looking at me. As he's coming at me, he turns into a Sasquatch. Okay. Like Bigfoot. I freak out. I jump up and try to attack him. And he's like, he's got to go. I ended up turning into Johnny Five from Short Circuit. And no, disassemble, no, disassemble.
Oh, no.
Because they were all talking, oh, he needs to go to the hospital. I'm like, I don't want to go to the hospital because then everybody's going to get in trouble. So there was still a part of me that was still fully there. And I was freaking the fuck out. So they ended up taking me to my other friend's house. And we weren't allowed upstairs. We always hung out in the basement. His mother was paralyzed, right? So he brought me to see his mom. He had to carry his mom down the stairs of the basement, bring down her wheelchair, put her in it. And all I remember, when she came up to me, she holds my pulse. Her eyes get real big, and she's like, I can't believe you're not dead yet. Because my pulse was so high. And, she ends up giving me like Ipecac syrup, which makes you throw up. So I could throw up all the alcohol. I threw up like neon green. And the end of the night, all I remember is watching Gallagher on TV in the couch in the basement as he's smashing watermelons. The next morning, I woke up and I felt different. I was never the same again. There was like a piece missing. It's kind of like that movie Friday, where he smoked the weed with the angel dust, which is what we thought it was, actually, because we smoked it all, so we don't know. But they're like, oh, somebody put angel dust in the weed, and I think somebody fessed up to it eventually. As a not, I don't know if it was a joke, but it was like we had like laced weed. Nobody told me, so I wasn't prepared, and it totally fucked me up royally. And I turned straight edge for like 3 years, because every time I tried to smoke weed, I'd have a flashback. Then the punks came into play. The punks came into play actually after I got arrested, because you guys remember Columbine, right? Oh yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I used to get picked on a lot. I'm not saying what they did was good. Never going to say what they did was good. But a part of me could relate. Okay? So I watched the news religiously. And I was like, because like somebody fucks with you, part of like the machine was like I was fantasizing about how I could kill all these people that pick on me. But, it was all unrealistic ways. Like, oh, I could grow over them and smother them to death. Or I could like crawl inside their mouth and like, expand and like cause them to like rip open, or some weird unrealistic way of killing somebody. Because just the sense of pain was, more interesting to me.
And then you realized,
anyway.
wait a minute, there's a realistic way to do this?
Yeah, right.
Hey.
Yeah, no. I would never in a million years shoot a motherfucker, unless I absolutely was pushed to the point where I had no choice, but I had to, but luckily and hopefully that day will never come. I don't want to deal with it. I felt life slip between from my fingers before, and it's a very traumatizing experience. We'll get to this later, but my girlfriend died, and I had to bring her back. She actually died 3 times on me. It was a lot of fun, but that's another story. Anyway, so the anyway, so Columbine happened, whatever. Everybody's wearing trench coats at the time. That's just the fucking fashion. Right. All right. Yeah. So anyway, Columbine happens, and we're all talking about, joking about it as douchey teenagers do. Shooting up the school, And I like toys. I collect toys. Whatever. We cut school one day, and we go to 7-Eleven, and at 7-Eleven, I think I either 5-fingered it, shoplifted it, or bought it. I don't remember, but I got this cap gun, and I'm playing with it, and I'm pulling the caps, but the little cap rings would kept falling out because the thing would open up every time you shot it. It was a shitty toy, and at the time, because of Columbine, there were undercover cops in our town. Okay, and in the parking lot of 7-Eleven, there was a kid that was on the hood of a car while this car was like driving in a circle in the parking lot of 7-Eleven. And the cop comes out of hiding as an undercover to, scold this kid or do whatever his job was. And my friends are like, "Oh, shoot the cop, shoot the cop." And I'm like, "Fuck you. I'm not shooting the cop. I'll get shot." I was like, "I'm not fucking doing that." I mean, the cap gun had like an orange tip on it and shit, whatever. But anyway, we're hanging out by the library in our lunches, and we're passing this toy gun around and joking around, shooting ourselves in the head, being stupid, whatever. And that was it. I put the gun in my inside pocket of my trench coat, and we go back to school. I totally forget I had the damn thing. We're going in. I'm like the last person going into the high school, and the bike cop that patrols the downtown area, he's wearing short shorts, like bicycle shorts, and he's pulling his gun out at me and telling me to put my hands up in the air against the wall. I totally forgot. I totally forgot why I had the thing in my pocket, and I'm like, "What's going on? What? Why?" And then my eyes get big. I'm like, "Oh shit! No! It's fake. It's not real." I get slammed against the wall. They're checking me. So they strip all that shit off me. They take me to the principal's office, talk to me, whatever. Next thing I know, I'm in the cop car. And I ended up getting for a cap gun, I got 2 weeks in juvenile detention, 5 months of house arrest, and a year probation.
Wow.
They had to make an example. There was a protest, for fuck's sake. It was partially about some policies at the school, but also of the arrest of me. It was in the newspaper. My friend Eric was telling me, because we were used to write letters, which I don't know if he got them all, because I was writing some fucked up shit to him, and it was like fucking Charles Manson type shit. Because I was so pissed off at everybody for what had happened, and I would write it, and it would be nice handwriting, and then I'd scratch, when I would feel pissed off at an idea I'm conveying on the paper, and kind of scratch the words like a crazy person. Maybe I am crazy. Who the fuck knows? Probably. I don't know. It's been a few times I've been told.
What was his friend's name?
Anyway,
Eric.
Eric. I don't know if I should give his last name without consent or whatever.
I wasn't asking.
Okay. He's a real cool dude, a real good musician. We haven't talked in years, but we still call.
The reason I asked is, one of the other questions that we ask is, getting to the social element of pros and cons of what might attract someone to be into horror is, if you've got a group of friends who are also into the same kind of stuff. And so I was going to follow up a question about Eric and see if he was into the same kind of stuff, or if you had.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is when I met all the punks in our area with him, because he made friends with the punks at this point, and he was throwing a party for me getting off a house arrest. And I worked at Wawa, Wawa at the time before they were Super Wawa, and I had a car, but I was only allowed to drive the car to Wawa. Okay, so on one of the times I said I was going to work, I got a copy of my car key. Okay. And I was saving it for a special occasion. I didn't know what it was, but I was like, "Oh, if I want to leave, I have an extra key, so they can't," because I'd have to hand my key into my parents at night. So this party happened. I was like, "Fuck, I don't want to walk all the way to Eric's apartment complex," which was 5 or 6 miles away. So, and even my dad, I told him, I'm going to the party. He's like, don't take that car. I'm like, okay. And I put the key in and I just drive.
I mean, of course, it's guaranteed you're going to take the car. When he says, don't take that car, I'm going to take the car.
Yeah, man. Fuck yeah. So I'm at the party. I guess in a way they were kind of cool because I was there for at least 2 hours. Okay. And I left to get cigarettes with some friends. And, we're drinking and shit. I wasn't that drunk, though, to drive. And I get back from that little venture, and Eric comes out, or somebody comes out. And no, I think it was Eric because it was his house. And he's like, dude, you need to go home right now. I'm like, why? What happened? He's like, your parents are fucking pissed. They're going to call the cops. And I was on probation at the time. And they're going to call the cops on you if you don't get it there right now. So I go home. They're sleeping. Nothing's happening. I was like, okay, maybe everything's cool. I sleep. Next day, nobody's home. And I'm like, oh, maybe everything's still cool. I didn't get a note or anything. And I start playing video games in the living room in my underwear. And my dad comes home. What the fuck are you doing here? Oh, and get the fuck out of my... And he kicked me out of the house.
Huh.
And it was my first time being homeless. That was that. Why was I mentioning all this? We were talking about, friends. Eric was into black metal, Satanism. He was all into the Levian Satanism. And he was always trying to convert me. But I'm like, nah, I don't really follow any of that.
Was it just Eric, or did you have other group of friends?
Yeah, there was a whole bunch. There was Produce, Crazy Chris, Glow, Kristen, fucking Candace, who's got like 13 kids now, and she's cool. He was a cool chick. Fucking, they're all awesome. Mike, a whole bunch of people. Yeah, we just party, fuck shit up.
Were they party friends or like horror fan friends?
Party friends mostly. It wasn't really like the horror element was there, but it wasn't like the central part. It was more of the music and the culture of the time.
I was just about to say, sounds like, from the horror stuff that you're referencing, I was going to say it almost sounds almost incidental compared to the music. And I'm actually even wondering, for the teenage portion of your life, I wouldn't even necessarily say that you were so much a horror fan in that part of your life as much as the music fan,
I was more the music fan. The horror mostly came in my younger days, and it reemerged as a scare.
And that makes
actor
sense. You're not
older.
the only person that had impact in the early years, and then you delve into other things in your teenage years, and then come back to it in the adult years. That's stuff that we've heard from other people as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, as far as the film aspect, not so much. I was more of the '80s horror fan. Poltergeist, I think, was in the '80s, right? All that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't sound like horror actually made you happy during your teenage years.
No. I mean, I still drew horrific things and created my own horror. From what
it sounds more to me like you had other forms of macabre and dark happiness that also just happened to include horror. It wasn't like a main influence. It was just like, yeah, it's there too.
Yeah, pretty much. But like,
sorry, I was going to say, I'm going to guess, with the drawing of your own artwork and stuff like that, it was probably the same, empowerment and control aspects from that we mentioned in your earlier years too, or was there some other element to it that, other than those things?
No, that's probably just the gist of it. I mean, I was ridiculed a lot by the high school staff for my art style. I have a drawing I did. I mean, Hellraiser was a big influence, right? And it was a girl that all the skin from the back of her head was missing, and there were these hooks and wires pulling the rest of her face back, and then she's got like a hook, a ring through her tongue, pulling it out, and all these demons and shit coming at her. And I did a Photoshop rendition of it too. And my teacher thought it was good enough to put on the in the hallway. Principal got so pissed off at that shit because it was gory. He made me put it all the way in the back of the display case. We used to have during Halloween.
What an asshole.
Yeah, he was a dick. During Halloween, we would all make Halloween pictures that we would recreate on windows downtown for the Halloween parade for Tom's River. Okay. So my first painting was a demon in a church, and he's emerging from flame. And at the time, I was a big Spawn fan, so like Spawn was a big horror thing. Fucking Lady Death. All right, more in the comics. Okay. Anyway, so I make this demon coming out of fire. I had the Mother Mary in the right hand corner, eyes bleeding. The stained glass window behind him is shattering, bats flying. You know, what over the top shit. And the window they assigned me was behind the news van.
Of course.
I was like, nobody's gonna see this.
Yeah. No, we'll give you a spot.
Yeah, exactly.
It won't be visible from anywhere.
So the second year, I was really getting into the story of this machine character I was creating. I have a rough draft script made of that too. One day I'll get to it. We'll see. But I did this. It was even bigger. And actually, that picture I showed you, Whitman, was with the machine hovering over all the mangled bodies and shit. I did a rendition of that for the store windows, and I got it. And they put me out in the open, but they put me on a side street. And then the final year I did it, it was a vampire bat, and even my my art teacher had to pull me aside. He's like, "Hey, can you not do any of? I mean, we'll put you out this year, but can you not do any of this graphic, gory, sexual stuff?" So I created this vampire bat, and he's got his victim, but the victim's in silhouette, rib cage ripped open, and he's got and the vampire bat's got a
that's a good way of doing it. That way you have the gore and the graphicness, but
it's not
really
apparent.
Tell
exactly. And he's got a piece of meat hanging out of his mouth, right? And it's really cool. And it was the first painting I actually finished. Okay, and I was real proud. I was like, I finally won the thing. And there was a contest too every year of who would be the winner of the best painting, right? That year I lost to Winnie the fucking Pooh.
What?
Yeah. And it was funny too, because I think that girl was hitting on me the whole time. And I didn't pick it up until like a year later when I thought about it. Because she's like inviting me to her parents' house to have pizza with them and stuff. And it just did not click because we were right next to each other the whole time. And I'm like, oh man, she was hot. But I was like, damn it, opportunity lost. But anyway,
past me.
So after everything's over, the parade's over, I go to get my painting off the window. It's on paper. And some motherfucker during the parade cut the head off my vampire bat.
I'm sorry, what?
They cut the head off my vampire bat to keep for themselves or whatever. Or just, and they pissed me off because it was my first painting I finished, right? And I just got pissed off. I ripped it up and just threw it in the trash. Like, motherfuckers. You know? So I don't even think I have a sketch of it anymore. Actually, wait, no, I might have the smaller painting of it somewhere. I don't know.
So let's jump over to adulthood.
Wait, one more thing. Halloween. We were about Halloween. Did we cover Halloween in adolescent years? Did you?
Oh fuck yeah, man! All right, really quick, Halloween. Yeah. It's an integral part because I didn't have Halloween as a kid, really. So I was like The Crow one year, Terminator another year, you know. But it grew later in my teenage years. That's when I got introduced into the entertainment department of Six Flags Great Adventure. Because when I was doing the game stuff, when Fright Fest came around, I didn't know it was a thing. And I was like, what the fuck is this? This is awesome. You know? So the next year when I found out what it was, the next year I signed up, you know, but you had to go through auditions, which in hindsight, they were really bullshit because they really fucking just hired everybody. Yeah. But, you know, I thought it like the first year I was like, oh man, I want to get this part. I hope they pick me, you know? You know, eventually I got the part, and at the time you were able to create your own characters, which was cool. So my first character was Satan's little helper. Had a top hat, horns. Oh, dude, I got so many scares. And it was really bad makeup and shit, but like, all right, it's time to go, fly or die. And I just fucking winged it, and it just fucking took off, and like people loved it. You know, started with like dead stares and then kind of jumping up at them until it evolved into more of like an animalistic thing where I would run like a dog on all fours at people, you know, coughing up pus and shit. And fucking
This is when you were doing what costume? The Satan's Little Helper?
No, Satan's Little Helper was earlier on. This is more in my 20s when I was growing, because I did this for like 6 or 7 years. before I initially got fired. So intentionally, I got fired.
How do you intend? Well,
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
That's another tangent. We'll get to that one in approximately 45 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah. But there was Satan's Little Helper Malice, who was a dead serial killer, all that kind of shit. And that was my Halloweens in my later teen years.
Would you say there was a favorite costume of all the ones that you did?
During that time, I'd say for me, it was Satan's Little Helper. Anyway, adulthood now? Yes.
Sure.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, I think we can move on to adulthood. I think we thoroughly covered adolescence.
So, and I know that you're, then moving into your professional work, but setting aside the professional work and just focusing on what you enjoyed as a fan of horror, what were some of the scarier stories or books or movies that you came across in your adult life that really impacted you?
I think, I don't know if you would consider it horror. But it was a Clive Barker book, A Magica. It was the thickest book I ever goddamn read. Holy shit.
I mean, I wasn't just focusing on books, movies too.
That's a hard one because, I was doing, in my early adult life, I was doing a lot of drugs. So I was really concerned about horror stuff. It's really a blur. Holy shit.
That'll happen.
I don't know. We went to the Limelight and we did a lot of drugs. I was at a private art show for H.R. Giger in the Fuse Gallery in New York, and I got to see a lot of his work. I mean, that's
very influential.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Except after this encounter, I learned to speak up when I should. I still get a little shy around celebrities, but I looked him in the face about to talk to him, but I couldn't get courage. And I turned to my friend to get courage, and I turned back, and he's fucking gone. And the people he was talking to, I'm like, where'd he go? He's like, oh, he was tired. He went into the cab. Because everybody was up his ass that night because it's fucking H.R. Giger.
Normally, I would say, whatever comes to the top of your mind. And so far, only two things have come up, Magica and Geiger.
Because from 2000 to 2002, I want to say, it was a blur of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I was going to shows. I was doing coke. I was going to the Limelight every weekend, dressing up crazy. And then,
so still more into the music than the art.
Yeah. It was.
At any point, did Marilyn Manson pull up in a giant bus and ask you if you like his UFO? References.
No. Reference. I hung out with KMFDM for a while.
That is awesome.
Yeah. I can't help you there. I'm sorry. Now it just tanks. Damn it.
We had 215% content for the first 2/3, and then just I don't know, drugs.
It just died. Yeah, I was more engaging in horror than just taking it in because I took it in for 2 decades basically.
Would you say in adulthood it was more
don't dream it, be it? Is that a reference? Yes, it is. That was Rocky Horror, folks. For those who don't know.
Yes, it was. Yeah, that's
okay. Yeah, which influenced, partially my drag persona that I carried off in the early 2000s, I would think. But it was more let's be the horror.
Yeah.
I would drag my body for 8 hours, covered in KY jelly and blood, half naked, scaring people.
And that was before I got into horror.
Right.
But like I said, I mostly just I became the horror, so it was mostly the Six Flags stuff, scaring people. I met my makeup artist friend Tony Mandil, who's the director of Midnight Mass. It's a good movie. It was a lot of fun, man. That movie was so fucking fun to be in.
So it sounds like you definitely were starting to put together a group of friends who were co-conspirators.
Yeah, until it dissipated. I mean, one went into the other, and here's a good horror movie, adult life. You want to talk about? Somebody actually reminded me of it, and I was like, "Oh man, that movie was awesome." Life.
Huh.
You remember that movie, Life, with Ryan Reynolds?
The space one.
The space one with the little alien. Crawls into your body and eats you from the inside.
If you watch that as a horror movie, basically the same level of science and logic as a Friday the 13th movie, but it's in space, then yes. But I'm sorry, I fucking hated it because there's so many things oh my god, hey, we're in space, let's get the flamethrower. What? What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you just gotta ignore certain things. Oh, now that it popped in my head, we're talking about space horror. Event Horizon.
There you go.
Do you see? Do you see? And In the Mouth of Madness.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
That's another good one. Do you read Sutter Kane?
Yeah. And then, of course, the Rob Zombie movies.
House of a Thousand Corpses,
House of a
Devil's
Thousand
Rejects.
Corpses.
Have you seen Three from Hell yet?
I tried. I'm gonna
me too.
give it another try. It was a little harder to watch, but I mean, I don't know, I can give it another chance. I mean, I love his shit. Even people might hate me for this. I'm not a big fan of remakes, but there's some remakes that I think are acceptable. Like I liked the Halloween remake that he did.
I also liked his Halloween remake. Even didn't absolutely hate the second one. I don't know what the fuck was up with that stupid horse, but a lot of people didn't like the second one.
But my favorite remake was Dawn of the Dead. Just the opening alone,
right,
was fucking amazing.
What about it?
Well, it's just Johnny Cash, the man, when the man comes around or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's just cuts to like people fucking tearing people apart, like things are falling, and like, but it's an easing, like, they got the close up of like viruses or whatever, and like people praying, and it's like it's the fucking apocalypse, and it's just the set. Some people hate it. I love it. I think it's a masterpiece. Honestly,
I'm missing something. What about it was awesome to you?
The chaos and just the world dying was awesome to me. Watching it, I always liked seeing, like, I used to say to myself, I would love to see the apocalypse as long as I get to survive it.
Well, yeah,
like just to watch it happen. I mean, but now, with like the last 4 years or whatever, I think I take that comment back.
Right. Like,
I'm like,
once we're starting to get a little bit of a taste of the reality of it.
Yeah, like, no, this sucks.
Maybe not.
No, this is not cool. I'm totally wrong.
So I want to go back to something for a second, because you mentioned 3 times now something that I want to ask about. So,
okay,
your dream in your childhood, the woman at the podium, the things that were flying, trying to eat your eyes. Scary stories to tell in the dark, the woman with no eyes. Event Horizon.
No eyes.
What's your thing with eyes, or losing them?
I don't know. I guess because I'm a visual person, maybe. I mean, I probably would kill myself, no lie, if I lost my eyes or my hands.
Honestly, dude, I have had the same thought. Not suicidal, but just like dread of, I don't know what the fuck I would do.
Yeah, but
often as well, if you're creative, it's like, holy shit, what if all of a sudden I couldn't see? It's one thing to have been blind your entire life and draw or paint or write stories or whatever, but if you've seen before and you suddenly lose your vision.
Oh, dude, I will tell you out of experience. It's the most horrific thing you will ever experience. One of the most horrific. I'm sure there's worse, but for me, it was most horrific. I woke up blind once, and I was terrified.
Was moonshine involved?
No. What happened was I was drunk, of course, but I came home, and at this time, my friend Tom and I were roommates. I slept in the living room. He was a little more antisocial than me, so he stayed in the bedroom. And I had my my bondage bed that my grandfather helped me build. Yes, I
wait, what?
That. Oh yeah, my grandfather helped me build a bondage bed.
What? Okay.
Yeah. Do we want to go on this tangent, or should I continue?
We'll circle back to it. Maybe
circle back to it. It's a funny story, really. I love it.
Sure, it is.
But anyway, so I slept in my bondage bed, and I guess I came home and I passed out drunk. Okay, and I woke up the next morning.
So there was moonshine involved.
No, it wasn't moon. I don't even know what I was drinking. I was really partial to Smirnoff Ice at the time, which I swore. Oh yeah, exactly. I swore off the shit after I had the worst hangover ever from drinking it too much. I couldn't see. My head hurt, but it wasn't like blindness. It was like the light just hurt my brain,
right?
And everything I put in my mouth, I would throw up. Anyway, so I wake up. I'm completely blind. All I see is like I was like white, right? And I start screaming for my roommate, and I fall out of bed. I'm crawling on the floor, and I finally get up, and I'm trying to find my way to his bedroom because I don't know if he's sleeping. I'm like, Tom, I can't fucking see. And he gets up out of the room and he looks at me. He's like, motherfucker, you fell asleep with your contacts in. I had whiteout contacts.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm
And
like,
they had
what?
shifted and the white part was over your pupil?
Yeah, the calcium buildup.
Yep.
And I didn't know that this was a thing. And he's like, dude, is like, that happened to me all the time. Take your contacts out and wash them and you'll be able to see again. I'm like, oh, the relief of knowing that I wasn't permanently blind. I was like, oh, thank God. There is a God. Holy shit. You know.
I actually think I asked you a minute ago, what's your deal with the fear about losing your eyes? I think I might know an answer, but I wanted to prompt you first to see if you might think of the same thing or something even different. But I mean, we've had a running theme in the conversation about empowerment and control, and losing your hands or your eyes,
Is
or
a sense
worse,
of that.
both. You a huge loss of control or power.
Well, yeah. I mean, you think about if you lose your hands, you can't wipe your own ass anymore.
Yeah. Well, particularly the thing with the eyes, we haven't really talked about it too much in this call, but I have some stuff in common with you about the domestic violence and different things like that. And one of the things about that is a lot of I can't say this for everybody, and I'm only guessing in your situation, but a lot of the people who are abusers like that, they thrive on keeping their victims off balance, and without eyes, it's really hard to tell what's coming. How?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because a lot of times the signals are not audible, shall we say?
Oh yeah, no, it's a visual. Or my dad used to make fun of me for this because I was more in tap with it, I guess, when I was younger as a teenager. But the energy that you would feel from a person, the vibe. I mean, I was terrified. The motherfucker once, he was on coke. I actually was trying to bring this up earlier, and he looks at me, and I always spent my time in the room. We were in the middle of the fucking woods in an old Boy Scout camp, renting this house. Right? I didn't really have a way of making friends. There was no internet back then. So I spent most of my time in my room, and he wanted me out doing stuff. It's like, oh, I wander in the woods for a little bit, but that gets old after a while. And he's looking at me all fucked up, probably. I don't even know. And he's looking at me, and we're at dinner, and he's like, I'm 13, and he's like, why don't you know? What's wrong with you? Why don't you go out and do something? Go get laid, go do drugs, do something, but get the fuck out of the house. And he's like, what are you, a coward? And, he asked me a question. So I look at him like, no. And he goes, what? And grabs back my head and bam! Smashes my face into my dinner plate. My two front teeth go in the back of my mouth. They didn't fully come out. They like hit the roof of my mouth. Blood everywhere. My mom comes out, what the fuck? Blah, blah, blood all over the floor, which added to the murder stains that were there from the people that used to live in the house. We could get on that too. Yeah. And then, we went away for a little bit and, nothing really happened. Oh, we went to therapy for a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry.
But my point is, without a pair of eyes, it's a lot harder to see that kind of shit.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was saying. You can still feel the energy, but the eyes are like a window to the soul, as they say. So, like, you're looking at one person's eye, you could, kind of pick up their energy signal.
Yeah. Sorry to go off on a tangent on that.
How dare you go off on a tangent? We haven't done that once this whole episode.
Yeah, right?
You ruined it, Steve.
This is the tangent episode. Yeah,
right?
Shit.
So was there anything in your adult life in the real world that scared you?
The most terrifying moment of my adult life is what I brought up earlier, is when my girlfriend died.
Oh, that's right. You did mention that.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yes, that was the most terrifying. It's made me more of a sympathetic person in some ways. It's like,
I imagine it would. Gives you more respect for life.
Oh yeah, I had PTSD for like 2 years. I mean, I probably still do. It's just not as bad.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what behavioral changes may have come from this.
We're a little bit more hypochondriacs now, both of us, for it. Every little thing,
Yeah.
But other than that, it's okay. You know, the only weird, scary things that happen to us now are the occasional ghost we see, which I don't really believe in, but I'll say it. I've had some weird shit where we have this guy in our house. Our house is almost 100 years old. And there was another instance with ghosts in California, my California apartment in North Hollywood. I didn't have any furniture in the house. All I had was a couch and a blow up mattress in the bedroom. I stopped sleeping in the bedroom because I felt uncomfortable in the bedroom. I don't know if it was the wall of mirrors. I always felt like something was watching me. So I go and I would sleep in the living room, but staring away from the hallway that went into the bedroom. And there was also, I used to see a black cat in the corner of my eye while I was in the bathroom. I would shit with the door open because there was nobody in the house. It was like my house, you know. I was like, whatever. And I would see just this black cat sitting there, and I'd look and he'd be gone. I rationalized that as I had a black cat in Florida that I had to leave abruptly to do this job. I left my girlfriend in Florida to do this job because it was a once in a lifetime deal. And I was like, oh, I just missed my black cat. You know, Prometheus was his name. He was an awesome cat. And I just that I couldn't explain the dude, but I never told him. And you know, she would stay in this apartment by herself all night, and you know, dark late at night. And I'd come home and she'd tell me about this figure she'd feel watching her, and I'm like, oh shit. It's like that's a little weird. Still don't believe because I like it's. If you see it, it's like you see it, but you don't see it. Like it's there, but it's not. It's really weird.
Like out of the corner of the eye, or you know, the shadow figure across the hallway, like you said.
Yeah, very strange.
So your cat was named Prometheus.
Yes, he was a cool cat.
Prometheus did what?
Stole, or did
he brought technology to man, didn't
he?
Yeah.
Which symbolizes what?
Oh God, here comes the therapy. I don't know, man. I didn't go that deep. What is that symbol? Power.
Power.
Oh.
Yep.
Right back around to the power and the control cycle. Yep. Steve, you should write a book.
Oh my God. Yeah, dude. You are a fucking dude. I think you could make bank as a therapist, dude. You are fucking on it. Holy shit. That's
wait. You didn't name your cat after the movie, did you?
No, the movie wasn't out then. But I mean, I could agree with this whole control thing because I know for a fact that I'm a control freak, man. And like, a part of me hates it. Part of me hates it because it's like, oh, you're kind of a douchebag, you know?
Right. Makes sense. So at the end here, we got a couple more general questions that you know are more like over your entire life. Sometimes they'll bring out new things that we haven't talked about, or they'll just underline things that we've already talked about. I'm going to guess it's probably going to be the latter.
I know the answer to one of them already.
Well, he already knows the questions, first of all.
Yeah. Do I know the questions?
No, Chris does.
Chris
does. He's done a few of these with me.
You call him Chris, I call him Whitman because our mutual friend Sarah, that's all she refers to him as is Whitman. I actually think it's kind of cool. I like calling him Whitman.
It's more original than Chris.
Yeah, I've called him that plenty of times in the past. It all depends.
I have many names: Chris, Whitman, Old Scratch.
You know, names.
Dickhead, asshole.
All of those.
So I'm going to ask two questions. One is, what's your favorite movie? And then the other one is, what movie have you watched more times than any other?
Well, there's more than one favorite, though, isn't there?
Hey, give us top three.
Top three? Okay, that sounds good. Well, number one and the most frequently watched is Back to the Future.
Okay.
All three of them. But that's the most movie I watched. But the other two I'd say is Alien and Hellraiser. The Alien series and Hellraiser. For sure.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think Back to the Future, you said that was in the hospital?
Yeah, that was the one movie that was a lot. It was only the first one. This is before 2 or 3 even came out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's some, I think you even said that it helps you calm down, I think.
Oh, yeah. It's a nostalgic thing at this point. It's like, oh.
Well, that too. Do you see any common threads about what kind of horror you like? You know, cannibalism, occult, metaphysical?
I'm going to say metamorphosis, actually.
Ooh, like body horror?
Yeah, because I like The Fly.
Yeah.
Body horror, for sure. Yeah. And also, like, if I look at my stories that I've written, like The Machine, he's actually, he's a morphing kind of guy. Like, he could change shape like Mystique. But
Okay.
before Mystique was introduced, the first person that was introduced to me or that did this sort of thing was on the X-Men cartoon series Morph before he died in the series, right?
Nobody remembers Morph. They always
No,
remember Mystique, but
oh
not Morph.
yeah, it was Morph
Yeah,
first for me.
right?
I was introduced, and I was like, oh, to be able to transform, and that is the theme of my life because I mean, I've done prosthetic makeup and stuff. I've been in prosthetic makeup, and it's a source of transformation. And you can see that in The Fly. You can see it in a way with Hellraiser with like Dr. Chenard or even Frank, his transformation from coming back from hell.
Oh, I love that transformation.
That's a fucking great transformation. Even in Alien.
Any idea?
Why?
Let me try that again. Yeah. Any idea why it is that you like Metamorphosis?
That's a really good question. I never really thought about it. I mean, a part of me, maybe it's because I don't want to be who I am. But at the same time, I love who I am because despite all this crazy shit, it's a crazy fucking ride. And nobody has lived this ride but me. And I take the good with the bad. And it's just fucking amazing that I'm not dead yet. It's a good ride. But at the same time, it's like, if you can change into anybody spontaneously, right? You could do anything. You could like take over somebody else's um life for a day. You could rob banks for fuck's sake, You could kill people.
What have been the two keywords for this call so far?
Control. It's
And
and
power.
power.
Okay.
So you're right. This motherfucker here. God damn. This is just painting me as an asshole now. He's just a control freak who wants some power. What a douche.
No, not at all, really, because I mean, given the situation that you talked about. So, do you know anything about early childhood development?
A little bit.
So if you know in general, then there are different phases of the things that are important to us, the things that we need as children at different phases. And having that development interrupted or halted at different phases has different causes different shit.
Right.
And so, I mean, given the conversation that we've had, it makes complete sense that you would have issues with that stuff, that things didn't get resolved that have had lingering effects. So I'm not saying that you're a douche or an asshole. I mean, or that if you are, it's because of the shit that you've been through.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it okay. I mean, you still have.
Well, but here's the thing. So there's a difference between wanting to do something. Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. There's a difference between wanting to do something and doing it. And of course, if you act out on behaviors that you shouldn't act out on, then that's not a good thing. But you're not a douche for necessarily wanting to do something. Or let me rephrase that. You're not necessarily a douche for wanting to have control if all your life you've felt that you've been out of control. That's not a douche.
Right. Thank you.
Not saying you're not a douche. You're just not a douche for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Oh no, I could totally be a douche. You have no idea, dude.
So last question. There could be any number of other things that could trigger these kinds of emotions or desires for control or metamorphosis or what was the other one we said? Power. So why horror? Because I mean, you could, and I think you did say that you do enjoy some of it in like sci-fi, but even like action adventure, you could be in control of the car demolition.
You're right. But there is an underlying feeling within me I recognize and I don't act upon it. And this is the difference between horror, watching horror, and being horror. Okay? Is I have this pit deep in my chest of pure, unadulterated hate and anger. It's suppressed from when I was locked up away a long time ago. All right. I don't let it out because that's just how I was trained. It comes out when I'm pushed too much. Watching horror, watching horrible things happen to other people and like even with Columbine, I was watching the news every fucking day. All right. I got bullied too. I related with these people and I said, hey, you know, um, I could fantasize about that. I have fantasized about it. Maybe not shooting up the place, but something to that degree where I want to kill these people who keep fuck with me. But watching horror is able to like stand back, enjoy the fantasy, not just in your head, but out in front of you without repercussion. And at the end of the day, realizing it's just a movie, it's just a book. I would never act on the impulses, but the watching, like for instance, like this is not horror related really, but Independence Day. My dad, I remember him looking at me like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Because I got excited the first time I saw Independence Day, and this wasn't in theaters. This was at home, and they blew up the cities, watching everybody die instantly. Not even instantly. It was slowed down, like this wall of fire and cars flying up, and everybody's obliterated. Their corpses are on the fucking ground and they're done. You know? And it's like, what if the world ended tomorrow?
And I'm also trying to think to myself, are there any other genres that really touch on anger with even without the accoutrements that you're just talking about there of, is there any that really touch on anger per se? And I'm not coming up with any. Maybe war.
That's different. Like, I'm not into war. I'm not. Isn't that funny? I'm not into war. I'm not into combat. I mean, when the towers fell, my first thing my dad said was, "Oh, you're going to sign up for the army?" And I said, "Fuck no! As soon as I get off that plane, I'm dead." It's like I'm a shitty shot. I'm not that athletic. And I didn't want to fight for certain people in the country. I was like, I have my principles, whatever. And I just don't feel like killing other people. Like, no matter what the reason is, like, unless there was no other option for me, I'm not going to kill a motherfucker. I might knock him out. I'll beat the shit out of him. And even that, I probably wouldn't even do. I'll find another way to not invoke violence.
That's kind of interesting. With the war movies or specific fighting movies, I think what I'm hearing out of that is that in a lot of those you have a specific target, and it sounds to me like with horror, like even Independence Day that you just mentioned, there's, I don't want to say it's faceless, because in most horror movies you do identify with some of the characters before they get killed, but in some way they're almost random in the sense of you don't really know these people in real life.
Well, yeah, it's like owning a gun. It's impersonal.
Before we record the closing, is there anything, do you want to pitch again anything that you're working on at the moment, or?
Yeah, the only thing really I got going on right now, because of the times we're in and I need extra funds, is my Etsy shop, which is Savimorph Industries. It's open at the moment. I'm still working on getting more product on there, mainly the masks and things, but we got the soon we'll be having the alien soaps. I got a few t-shirts of original designs on there, that sort of stuff. I do take commissions from time to time too. You just have to inquire, and if I'm available and it's within my means, we can work something out.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being our guest this evening. And also thank you to anyone out there listening. Again, please do come visit us at horrormakesushappy.com. We'll have a schedule posted there to show who we're interviewing next, as well as a list of the people we'd like to interview. If you can help us connect with any of those people, or if you know somebody who you'd like to have added to the list, let us know. You can also become a Patreon subscriber, or buy our merch. Link to our social media. In general, just come let us know how we're doing. horrormakesushappy.com.